I'm Jacked Up Church. Well, another good video. This video is a continuation of Disk075, but I wanted to take a few minutes and expand a little bit on this particular half of the video and maybe backtrack a little bit. This half of the video goes into me talking about the experience I had and trying to find Van Buren and Sarah Jane's grave. I want to talk a little bit about that. And then we go out, everybody goes out, we visit the old home site of Van Buren Smith and Sarah Jane's home place. This would be where Daddy B's father was born. And when we went out there, the house was no longer there, but the spot was still there, and there was an old well. We talk about a well, which was kind of dangerous. I don't know if it's been covered up since or not. But it's right out of Cephas, Georgia, and Cephas is spelled E-P-H-E-S-U-S. That's E-P-H-E-S-U-S. And it's near the Georgia-Alabama line, and it's south of Bowden on Highway 100. The old home site is on Rogers Street, right out of Cephas. And Rogers Street continues on eastward to Bar Farm Road, turns into Bar Farm Road, and not too far from that is Hopewell Primitive Baptist Church. But the old home site is back toward Cephas, and it's right before you get to the fork in the road. It would be on the north side of Rogers Street. The other thing I want to speak of, there's a real good photograph of Daddy B's mother and father, John and Ellen Smith, in this video, and just think that would be my great-grandfather, John and Ellen Smith. That's Daddy B's mother and father. So take a good look at that. It's a good picture of them. They're buried at Pleasant Grove Church outside of Tice there. And then the last thing I want to cover is Uncle Trav had really inspired me to try to find Van Buren Smith's grave and his wife, Sarah Jane. And he went there as a small child, apparently, maybe to the funeral. But he had since gotten lost. And I had been researching where his grave might be. Uncle Trav knew it was near Tice, but didn't know exactly where it was. And I talk about this in this video, how I found it. And if I had not lived this experience, I probably wouldn't believe the story. But it's true, so help me God. Anyway, it started out, I went to the library. It didn't start out that way. I'd been searching. One day I went to the library to try to find old grave sites. And I found a book that had a listing of all the cemeteries in Carroll County. When I opened that book, I looked down, and this book that I opened, I turned to Bethesda Church Cemetery. That was the cemetery I was looking for. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. I mean, what are the coincidences of that occurring? The cemetery I was looking for, I opened a big book, and there it is. And then I went out there. I got the location of it. I went out there, and when I parked my car on the Highway 100, on the side of 100, I had a special feeling. I don't know what it was. Something, I knew I was on to something. And when I started into the woods, I wouldn't say somebody was pulling me or pushing me, but something occurred. I'm not sure what it was. And that, as I explained in the video, as I got near to those headstones, things really happened. I really had a funny feeling. And so it made God, it's a true story. But and make a long story short, I found those headstones out in the middle of the woods on Van Buren Smith and his wife, Sarah Jane. And remember the trip to the library that day, and then the trip back out to Tyus, parking along Highway 100, going into the woods to find these headstones happened 100 years to the date of their burial out there in those woods. I did that 100 years to the date, the exact day. Found those graves. Well, what are the coincidences of that? Could have been a year earlier, a year later, 2 years, 3 years. No, to the very date. I don't know. I don't know. Somebody else will have to explain that to me. I speak of Van Buren Smith. He was Daddy B was my grandfather. His father was John Smith, my great-grandfather. And John's father was Van Buren Smith. So it would be my great-great-grandfather. So if you're my first cousin, it would be your great-great-grandfather. And of course, and we have a picture, not in this video, there's a picture of him. Now, in this video, there's pictures of Sarah Jane, some good pictures of Sarah Jane, who's buried out there in the woods. So take a look. I don't want to take up all your time with my dialogue, but it was quite an experience. And as I said earlier in my dialogue here, I wouldn't believe this story if I had not lived it, but it's a true story. But sit back and join me and we'll go down memory lane.
Thomas married.
He married a Wessinger. Cleo Wessinger.
Cleo Wessinger. And she was your...
This right quick and
Ronnie, see that picture of us, my family, Jim, and all my family ain't in there on that table.
okay, this is John and Ellen Smith here. Now I've got a big blow-up of not a blow-up, but they took heads of these people and put them on a portrait, so they had a big head portrait of them.
The sack is not. The sack is not in that sack though. I took that picture out and showed it to you when we first come. A picture of us lined up and me and my 4 brothers. What is that picture?
Let's get this picture here up here while we got it and get this one.
Yeah, that's all. That's all
Is
your
that-
children, isn't it?
Somebody's got it. We'll find it.
That's all your children.
Okay, name. Oops.
This is something to be name all these 9 children.
Well, I hate to keep jumping around.
That picture-
Okay, let's. Who is this here?
That's Ralph.
Now,
Is that VR?
Yeah.
That's you.
Whose family is this now?
It's us. All our 9 children.
Who is her?
My grandchildren.
Okay, this is...
No, just your children.
No, my children. It's not
This
my
okay. Let's get started
Okay,
with
this
this.
is Sarah. You spell your name with an H?
Yeah.
Sarah,
S-A-R-A-H?
S-A-R-A-H.
Sarah Henrietta.
And this is your husband, right? What was your husband's name?
Leo.
Neil Stevens.
Neil Stevens. Okay.
Where's your husband?
Spelled
Right here.
N-E-A-L?
Yeah.
N-E-A-L.
Is that him?
Okay, and then these are all their children? Okay, does it go from oldest to youngest or anything?
Let me,
You can tell me.
Mama don't hear very well. She's got a good ear.
On the wrong side of us, huh?
On the wrong.
Why don't you point them out to us? And
This is the boys is in order, and this is the oldest girl, and this is the next to the oldest.
Here's the baby girl right
Wait
there.
just a minute.
Okay.
This is the two youngest girls flanking on each side.
okay, let's
Two-
take the men folks first here, if I could. Sorry, this thing's bouncing
Who is
around.
the very
Okay,
oldest?
this is you, right?
That's me.
Okay, and you're the oldest child.
Oldest child.
Okay, and then this is
That's the experimental child.
That's Holly.
right.
That's what.
Turned out all right. This is Hollis, his Hollis.
Okay.
Was he next? He on-
He was in the order of the boys now, yeah.
That's not turning out, is it?
And
Here.
okay, this is Hiram. Hiram, he lives in Roanoke now. He's in the Washington area, just across from Virginia. And Hiram and Huel, he lives here. And Leland, he's the youngest boy.
So all the brothers are still living then, right?
All of them are leaving.
Are all the children living? Great.
Okay, this
Okay,
is,
now,
uh,
all right, let's go with the oldest daughter.
This is the oldest one here.
And what is her name?
Margie Shelland. She was married to Buell Williams when he died, and she married R.G. Shelland, and he's passed away now.
Okay. And then this is the
Earlene, she lives in, by the way, Margie lives in Athens. She lives in, Earlene lives in Cedartown. She's the next to the.
okay. And then which one of these
This one
girls?
right here is the next one. Is she lives in Riverdale.
What's her name?
Dondra Kahili is her husband. Don
Kahili.
Kahili. And then this one is Wanda,
She's a baby.
and her husband. I've never been around him about a couple times. They live in Texas now. What's his name? Mike.
Michael.
What part of Texas?
Can't think of his name right
So you had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 children.
I've missed one.
Okay, how many men you have?
Only got
5
eight.
men.
5 men? Have you got 5 men on there?
Nope, I missed one of the.
Okay, name them. I'll give them the order.
Yourself, Hiram.
No, Hollis comes
Oh,
out.
that's the one I missed. Hollis.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 5 men.
And your mom and dad celebrated their 60th anniversary?
Oh yes, this is the 50th year.
And the one we're looking at is at the 50th then.
And then 10 years later they celebrate their 60th.
This is where
And,
they be. I wish I could come to the meeting.
I believe when he died they'd been living together 63 years.
63 years.
So do we.
Okay, we got some more pictures here.
Let me ask
We've
you a
got,
question of Henrietta. Do you have a family Bible with all your family listed in it, with the birth dates and everything?
Well, I think I've got it somewhere, but honestly, I don't remember where to find it. You mean Mom and Papa they died?
No, your
Your
family.
family.
Your family.
Your
Oh,
family.
yes, I've got this.
Do you have a family Bible with all their birth dates and everything listed?
Yeah, I think so.
Could we get a shot of that? Is that possible to?
How about
yeah, if y'all can get it out here, we'll.
Well, I'm gonna go in there and see if I.
Okay, and this is a picture of your grandmother, right, Susie?
Yeah.
And a picture of you. It's a big blow up. It's framed. It's in an old frame here. Is that the original frame?
Well, I know it is.
And you can see it's flaking a little bit up here. It needs to be restored. But that's a great picture of your grandmother, and that's my great grandmother there. I'll have to tell y'all a story about finding these graves. Do you know where they're buried, Susie?
Who?
Your
No, I don't know. I never.
well, you were 9 years old, about 9 years old when she died. I'm sure you went to the funeral, don't you think, or went there at one time?
your Grandma Smith?
Yeah.
Grandma
I don't know.
Smith.
I don't remember.
Grandma Smith.
Did you go to her funeral?
It's possible I did, but
Well, I know I didn't go to his, I don't think I went to his.
And when were you born, Jim?
1905.
Okay, and she was buried in 1919, so you would have been, what, 14 years old? Yeah, it's a possibility you went and you just don't remember.
Yeah.
I think we went to Grandma's.
Let me grab this picture over here. Let me,
I don't know why, but we just, there never was a whole lot of communication between my Smith people.
Okay, now this is a picture of VR?
Yeah.
Come here a minute. Wow.
Oh, excuse me.
Tell me about this picture.
That's their wedding certificate right there.
Okay,
Are these two
Yes.
people here?
Yes.
this is Robert Lee Williams and Roxy A. Smith
And
Williams.
and Roxy was the daughter of
Van Buren Smith.
Van Buren Smith.
Yeah. And they were married. Wait just a minute. This
Oof.
is my grandmother and granddaddy's old Bible. He's
We've got a
and right here it says something about that. It's all coming apart.
let's see if I can read. It says, at her father's, Mr. Van Smith, on the 25th day of September, in the year of our Lord, 1887, in the presence of her mother, Mrs. Sarah J. Smith, and signed P.L. Cruz and C.J. Darrington,
That's when they got married.
Justice of the Peace, Mr. Tarrington or Harrington.
Can you pick that up on the video?
Yeah, it might. Let's see if we can get it up close. Well, it's in pieces, so.
Yeah, it's gonna be
well,
difficult.
let's see. Wait a minute.
You're gonna have to hold it up.
Hold it? Yeah, okay.
Hold it up.
You might have to get that camera, the light on it better.
Well,
Never been directed. It's in, must be in another Bible.
and this is the marriage certificate, and there's a lot of detail. I wish you could.
Yeah, you don't find that much.
No, this is
Put
a.
it down over there again and start over.
Okay.
Do that.
Marriage certificate is really unique. I mean, if you just look at the overall, I mean, it's quite a document. Got a lot of engraving here, but the picture even has a picture here of the bride and the groom, and I guess best man and maybe best woman or whatever. The justice of the peace, pastor, preacher, or whatever. But this is a great marriage
So
certificate.
she wanted to get in that check that she had.
Holy matrimony. Really neat. 1887, so this document is 103 years old.
See if we can get that better there.
Okay, their names again was R.L. Williams
That's
and
Robert Lee.
Robert Lee Williams and Roxy A. Smith. Do you know what her middle name was? Roxy Anna? Roxy Anna
And she
Smith.
spelled it R-O-X-I-E. A-N-N-A.
Right, I'm sure it must have been. Okay, this is the picture, and tell me now, what again?
The school picture was made the same day that the picture of me and Grandma was made. That big picture.
That is a school picture of Miller's Academy.
Miller's Academy in Carroll County.
County.
Miller's Academy in Carroll County.
That's a-
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people there.
That's Jim. And
This
then-
is Jim that we have with us today. Huh?
And
Bill,
Bill is in that too somewhere.
Who?
Bill. That's Bill.
Here's Bill.
And this is Jack.
Wait a minute.
Bill is in that too.
Wait a minute. Where's Jack?
That's Jack.
Right.
That's Bill.
Right here's Jack.
Uh-huh.
This is Bill.
And that's Jim now. I don't know where Theo.
I'm
You know,
sure Bill.
Theo's in there too, but I can't. I don't know. Well, I ain't
Here,
find him.
have him point out which one is Theo and one.
I was looking at it a while ago. I found him. Hey, he's right there.
That's my 50th anniversary.
Okay.
This is Theo right here.
Yeah, that's
Like that's
Theo,
Theo.
and that's Jim, and this is Jack, and that's Bill.
Well, I guess that's gone. That structure's gone today, isn't it?
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Burned down.
Where are you? This is you here?
And this is all my brothers. Uh-huh.
This is your father,
My
Right.
father, that's Tom. My
Tom.
mother's name was Tempe.
This is Tom. This would be Daddy B's brother here. No, Daddy B's uncle.
Uncle John.
Daddy B's uncle.
No, yeah,
And his
it'd
wife.
be Uncle John's brother. Yeah.
Right, Uncle John. Your Uncle John, my great grandfather's brother.
This one died first. He died when he was 14 years old.
Well, this is a great picture.
And these two are dead too.
These two are dead here.
And Jim and just Jim.
Is this Jim here?
And that's me.
You got knickers on or something, whatever you call them.
Well, what
And
are
this is
those
y'all's
names?
house here, huh?
Yeah. And
Yes.
Yeah. What was his name?
Jack.
This is Jack.
Buren Jackson.
Buren
Name-
Jack.
Name for grandpa.
And this is. Who is this?
That's Bill.
William
William
Thomas.
Thomas.
William Thomas. And Jim's middle name is
James Van.
James Van. He's.
Theo
Married-
Atkinson was his name.
And this is.
That's James. That's Jim.
Okay. And
This
what's
is
Jim?
Theo.
What's Jim's middle name again?
Van.
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 James Van.
And your father was Thomas Lee.
No,
Yes, Newton.
Thomas Newton.
Thomas Newton. Thomas Newton.
And
And what was your mom's name
she
again?
was Susan Temperance.
Susan Temperance.
And I'm named for
Jackson.
And you're Sarah
Susan
Susan
Temperance.
Temperance. And this house is long since gone, I
Oh
guess.
yeah, I'm sure it is.
Burned down many years.
Do you have any idea, did y'all build that house, or did he buy?
He built part of it.
He built part of it.
Well,
An
now,
old home, when we moved there, he built onto it.
Excuse me,
That's
just
good.
1 minute, with all y'all out your glasses.
It's something that Ron has put together, his genealogy. You can see Ron right up here
On the left side.
on the left side there. Why don't you kind of point that out, Ron? Here, take him up.
This is me here,
Okay.
okay, and this is my father, John Benjamin Edmondson,
John Benjamin Edmondson.
and my mother, Susan Temperance Smith.
Susan Temperance Smith.
And this is my grandfather, Thomas Newton Smith, and my grandmother, Susan Temperance Jackson. And then, of course, my great-grandfather, Van Buren Smith, and Sarah Jane Nixon. And then on the other side, the Jackson side, my great-grandfather, James Madison Jackson, who fought with Longstreet in the Civil War, and my great-grandmother, Fredonia Zipporah Davis. Now, this line, the Davis line, has been traced back to the original Davis who came over from England, Jonathan Davis, and fought in the Revolutionary War. Davis, in 1905, published a genealogy of the family, and that got that far back. This is my great-great-grandfather, Thomas Jefferson Jackson.
We know who he's named after.
Yep, who was born, both Thomas Jefferson, well, James Madison was born in Elbert County, Georgia. And we don't know where Thomas Jefferson was born. He's buried at what's called Yellow Dirt Church, which is within the grounds of Georgia Power's plant Wansley today. He and my great-great-grandmother, Lucy Ann Susan Henderson. That's where the Susan got into the family.
I imagine James and Jefferson were born at the same time. They were twins. I imagine one was born.
That's funny.
Thanks,
that was
VR.
the other
I
one. I'm talking
appreciate
about
it.
their father.
Oh,
Yeah, they're both
What a-
born in Elbert County, but their father, we don't know where he was born.
And the other
So
one.
it's already apparent here where both names of my mother's name, Susan and Temperance, came from. Here's the Temperance right here, and of course here's the Susan here in Lucy Ann Susan Henderson.
That's great. I know you put a lot of work into that.
Husband and I. That's my husband.
This is your husband here. And what was his name?
John Benjamin
John Benjamin.
Edmondson.
And this is you, right?
Yeah. This is Ron,
Ron.
and that's the other son right there. He don't wear a beard now.
And what's his name?
John Buren. He got Buren in his name too.
Uh-huh.
And then that's this girl. This girl here is 18 years old now. And this, what is Ron? 27? Yeah.
Well, is this Ron's son
That's my
here?
son, Jeff.
Yeah.
27, ain't he?
Yeah.
And who is
one-
this?
That's the
That's my
son,
youngest son,
And his name is,
Christopher.
Christopher.
and this is your wife,
My wife, Margaret.
Margaret.
And that's John. John Buren.
And this is
Triple.
Ron's brother.
The name continues, Buren. His middle name is Buren.
And who is this?
Well, that was his
That was
first
his
wife.
first
He-
wife,
Wife.
Laura.
He's married again.
And whose children are these?
That's these two belong to him and her.
Okay.
That's
And she-
Danielle.
she's
Danielle.
18.
Well, so I'm sorry, go ahead. Danielle and who?
She's
Danielle,
18 now.
and who's the young?
Jason.
Jason. Okay, so you had two sons named Buren?
Nuh-uh. Ron's was named Ron Smith.
Okay, I thought his name was Buren.
No,
All this
his-
gets very confusing.
His name was Ron Smith, and John's name was John Buren.
And you named him after your,
Well, we never thought about it till it was too late. He got the same initials as his daddy. His daddy is John Benjamin, but he's not Junior because his name is John Buren.
Buren. Uh-huh.
But his daddy was John Benjamin.
That's interesting.
He's
Very good.
J.B. Edmondson, but he's not Junior.
I wanted to read y'all, this is an article here. You can't read it off of here, but I wanted to read you part of it. Let me have this picture here to use as a backdrop. This is an article that that Nina Word gave to Uncle Traff, and it was written about, we think, I don't know, 75 years ago. Contribution of the Word Gamble families to Carroll County shown by correspondent, and it's talking about a marriage Sunday, June 15th, of Miss Nina Word Gamble
I'm proud of this.
to Johnny J. Word. Okay, we can't all talk here, girls.
Maybe sure you did.
Girls, we can't all talk here. Let me have the floor a minute. Okay, y'all listen in here a minute. I'm going to read part of an article, a newspaper article. I think it was written about 75 years ago, and it's regarding the marriage of Nina Gamble to Johnny J. Word. And let me just read parts of it, okay? There's some interesting parts here. It says, contribution of the Word Gamble families to Carroll County shown by correspondence by Mamie Morris Brooke. The marriage Sunday, June 15th, of Miss Nina Gamble to Johnny J. Word stirs memories long dormant, some of which lead back to the middle 1880s. It's been my privilege to know both of these young people intimately, but I have calmed friendship with their families, especially that of Mr. Word, for more than 50 years. And it jumps on down here, it says, someone has said that no boy ever greater than his mother. If this be true, Johnny would be handicapped in his chosen field of service, relieving human suffering for his mother, Mrs. Willie Smith Word of Ville community. Now, Willie Smith was a daughter of John and Ellen Smith. Of Miss Willie Smith of Ville community has worked on the front lines for years with those caring for the sick, anyone within reach of her home. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. J.M. Smith of Tyus, were among the founders and loyal patrons of Ville School during its early struggles. It was there that Willie agreed to assume and carried to success the leading role in a play far beyond her age and qualifications in the spirit of loyalty to her teacher. Mrs. Word's paternal grandparents, Van Smith and Sarah Jane Nixon Smith, late of Heard County, were Christian friends of my parents more than a half-century ago, and were often in our home then and later. One of my sweetest memories of my early years is of a visit to the home of Willie's great-grandmother, Aunt Smith, when blackberries were ripe.
Willie's great-grandmother.
Willie's
That'd be Van's mother.
great-grandmother called
That'd be
Aunt
Van's mother.
Smith. Now
How
that would have
is that-
been,
how
who
is
would
that
that have been?
spelled?
That would have been,
That
that
was
would have been Sarah Jane's,
Van's mother.
Van's mother.
Buren's mother.
Van Buren's
That's
mother.
right.
So this article is talking about Van Buren's mother. I'm telling you, that takes way on back.
Is it spelled A-U-N-T, Aunt?
Yeah, A-U-N-T, Aunt Smith. It's in quotation marks, of mother.
Henrietta, do you remember anything about Van Buren's mother and father? Your great-grandfather and grandmother? That
Did you
name,
ever hear them say anything about it?
Oh, yes, I've heard him speak of it.
where were they from? Do you know?
Were they raised in Carroll County?
That reckon they was raised in Heard County.
Oh,
Let's see.
Sounds like his daddy might have been gone, but his mother was still living.
Let me pass on one little part of information concerning what you just read there. It reminded me of it. They were naming the roads up in Heard County several months ago, and I went over to Franklin and I wrote up a little article and asked them to name that road down through there for name it the Van Buren Smith Road coming down by the old home place. I didn't win that one, but anyway, there's a lot of them I hadn't won.
Somebody beat him.
But one of the things I was emphasizing was that Van Buren Smith was one of the organizers of the Hopewell Primitive Baptist Church, one of the three men that started that church
You have to
there.
constitute that.
Wow. Say that again now,
I'd have
Hopewell?
to get that.
Hopewell
Hopewell.
Primitive Baptist Church, which is about a mile below the old home place there.
It's a
Okay.
mile below the old home place. Well, my great-grandfather and grandmother are buried at Hopewell Primitive Church.
And we've been
in
up there.
Heard County.
Yeah,
Well,
I've been there and filmed all that.
That's Uncle John, you mean?
Okay,
Isn't it? Boy, that's amazing.
You mean
Are
they
you
buried
related to any
him?
up churches in the Ephesus?
You mean your up church grandfathers are buried there?
It's buried in
What was
this
his
church he
name?
was
Isn't
just
that-
talking
I think
about.
I'm fixing to make a connection. What was your grandfather's name?
My grandfather's name was John Henry Upchurch. Everybody called him Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry.
Did he live from Ephesus over towards the Alabama line? Do you remember that?
No, he had the old, what they call the old home place. It was down at Victory. You know where Victory is? Farmers High?
Well, that's in Carroll County.
Yeah.
But did you know that any
Now,
up
Hopewell
churches that
is
lived in Yemen?
H-O-P-E-W-E-L.
No.
Yeah.
Where is that
They're
church?
all dead now.
It's in Heard. Now you're talking about a Hopewell in Heard County,
I'm talking
right?
about
Yeah.
the one that Van Buren
Church.
Smith, you said, was one of the three organizers.
It's Hopewell Primitive Baptist Church in Heard County.
And he was one of the,
Where in Heard County?
In the northwestern part, it's
Yeah.
just off of Highway 100 in the
Yeah.
Ephesus community.
All
Your,
that-
your grandfather up church lived near there for a while, didn't he?
yeah, we don't know where he lived.
We don't
I don't know
know
where my
where.
great-grandfather lived,
trying
but
to
he
make
lived
it
there somewhere.
Come to me, I knew a Saul up church. You know.
Saul Upchurch.
Let's see, and then there was a fellow that lived in Union, was an offspring.
Well, that's what I'm trying to.
Is that one,
Amon
They
up
dead now.
church.
They
Amen
did,
up
they
church.
did.
Don't know him.
Okay.
what was it, Darrell?
My great-grandfather's name is buried at Hopewell. It was Charles Monroe Upchurch. Charles Monroe Upchurch. And he's buried there at Hopewell Primitive. Now, I've been down there and I made a rubbing of the headstone, you know. I love that church. It's so quiet and peaceful out there. Been inside the church.
Is Hopewell Baptist Church is still an active church today?
It's
once in a
it
while.
barely is. It's a primitive Baptist
I see.
church.
Old hard shell.
Yeah.
It's
Right, right.
yeah, you have to be
You didn't have
particular when
any
you
music
use the
in
word hard shell. You know who you're talking
Yeah.
about.
That's why I
That's
just started
what we used
Baptist
to
Church.
call grandma and grandpa.
And my aunt.
That up church you're talking about, didn't he carry the mail down to Heard County
From Union.
from Newman? And he
Yeah,
had
he
a
was-
son, but that son's dead too. They
Yeah,
all
he's
dead.
See, my Aunt Yuna Blackwelder, who lives there right out of Tyus, and is the daughter of John Henry Upchurch. Her father, John Henry Upchurch, who was the son of Charles Upchurch, is buried there. She speaks of Papa used to love to go back to that church. They'd have like an all-day singing once a month or something,
Yeah, but
and
third
he used to
Sunday
love.
evening.
Yeah, he used to love to go there and listen to the singing and everything. Right.
That's it. It's just below the old home place.
It is.
That's it. If,
Right there in Old Stone.
I-
That's amazing. I want to go
I
there.
just called my wife, and if you go into the cemetery, I've decided that right up there with you,
Oh,
we'll go
great.
by the old home place,
Great.
and I'll show you on down to the Hopewell if you want me to, if you got time.
Well, I know. Yeah, if you, I want to go. What I'd love to do is go to the old home place and just walk on the ground. You know, that's all I want to do is walk on it.
But he died and she quit, she quit.
You know her, don't you? one of Willie's daughters married and lived down at Moreland.
Yeah, I know.
And I would try to, she said, well, she said she remembered you.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I don't know. So finally she said, maybe Nina can get it. That's Johnny's wife, you know. And one day I called Nina and she said, well, I'll get it. I hadn't got it, but I'll get it. And she gave it to Johnny, to Norman. Can't think of her name, but she gave it to her, and she called me one day. Said I got Travis' telephone and address, and it took me else long to get that.
Here's
You know,
another.
that's the first inkling that I ever had in any way, even come close to find out about that man where I want to know it. And you could have knocked me over with a feather whenever you started telling me all that. I couldn't believe it.
You know,
Me and Jackie just decided there wouldn't be anybody left, that would know anything about it. I imagine you two about that. How many more is Tom?
There's not very many of the children of
See, all Grandpa Smith's kids are gone.
the grandchildren of Van Buren. Me and her and
To Dennis.
Well, we hadn't mentioned Kenyon's family. Her brother, William Thomas, has a son who lives in Rome. His name is Kenyon Smith. You hadn't mentioned him.
That's right.
Remember the name Denny? I can't remember none of them.
Denny, see, I've always heard of the Denny's in our family, but I never
There's
knew
about 10
any.
of them, I think.
But I've always heard, well, the Denny's.
okay, let's talk about the cousins. Two there, and one here, right? Three. And
Me-
then Gerala,
Her and me and him are only
Octavia?
and then Gerala and Ham.
Ham.
That's the only
Only-
5 left, is that right? Of
And
the,
Ham.
of
I
the-
talked to Geraldo.
Of that generation, right?
I
So
talked
that there's 5 of them left?
Yeah, and I talked to Geraldo, and she said, please don't call Hamp. Said he just get disturbed, and said he'd get all upset. if
She
you-
still writes to Sarah, his wife. Mama, they
She
keep
does.
in touch. Another interesting thing about it to me is he lives LaGrange and her and Eunice using Hogansville. They didn't even know this existed.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that is
That's a
interesting.
long ways
Well,
apart.
And you know how I found out? I called Geraldo, and I had tried my best to find out if there was any more cousins besides the two Dennis living.
I thought Harvey was still living.
Harvey died like a year or two ago, didn't he? I think so.
let me tell y'all something that's somebody might not know.
It's just me and
You know,
Hamp, you're right.
Van Buren Smith was born in 1838, and my grandfather, his son, was born in 1953. So Van Buren would only had been 15 years old when my grandfather was born. That's his firstborn. You think that's possible?
He was 15 years old.
He was 15 years old whenever Grandpa Smith was born. That
No,
was
that
15.
must not be right.
Well, this is on the records we got it. So we're getting it off of a Van Buren's tombstone, and on Grandpa Smith.
I talked to Vivian Rogers, and she said she believed if you take some Clorox, you
I've
could
got some. I brought some with me.
you could get those dates a lot better than you can.
Now,
You can
15 years old, it wouldn't be impossible. You know, he could have been his son, or they had twins there. I think Grandpa had a twin. I
Maybe
said.
it's just a mistake in there somewhere.
think. Yeah, she went on 15
More than
years
that,
old.
then.
I can know a woman having a child at 15.
Yeah, that happens pretty often.
And none of you, now tell me again, none of you have been to Van Buren and Sarah Jane's gravesite? None of you
Yes,
here?
I have several times.
You have?
She had.
Yeah, me and Hamp Denny and his wife went there last.
That's another thing. I had such a long time trying to find out what Grandma's name was, and nobody knew.
Yeah, I know where it's at. It's in Pine Thicket now.
Yeah,
Has
When
been
was
a- Has been a cemetery years ago.
Uh-huh.
But,
Was it a churchyard at one time?
Yeah, they was a church that way.
Louis
What was
Grenard
the
is,
name of the church? Do you remember?
I don't know.
you ought to get
that.
Louis in on it. You ought to get Louis in on it.
That place where Van Buren and Sarah
But
Jane.
me and
married.
him being in his house,
He
had
said
to, I
he was
guess,
church there.
2 or
What
3
was the name of the
days
church?
ago.
He'd
You
right on.
went there 2 or 3 years
I
ago?
have a map of Carroll County.
She
that has
did.
that
Uh-huh.
church name on it.
You went there.
Do you remember the church? Do you remember
No,
seeing an
I
old
don't
church?
remember.
Did,
There was a church
It's on the
there.
Bethesda Road.
and when were you born again now? When were you born? When were you born?
I was born, Mama and Papa's old home place.
I know, but when? What year?
Oh,
1903.
1902.
1902. So, boy, you were 16, 17 years old when Sarah Jane died there.
Yeah, I married that year after she died.
Well, do you remember going to her funeral?
Yes, yes.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I remember all
You
about
remember
it.
whether my daddy was there or not?
Well, no, I
He
think I
must
was.
have been.
Yeah, I had to have been.
You must have went to that church there because I imagine they had the funeral. at that
Well, I
church.
wonder if, well, I wish we could find out the name of that church.
Oh, the church, oh, the
There's
Bethany.
What?
There's a Primitive Baptist church there, there at the Tires. Bethany, I think was, but it's gone
Jack-
out now.
there is a published book, Cemeteries in Carroll County, and it's probably listed in that book. It's in the archives. I saw it yesterday on the shelf. I didn't take it down, but I saw it yesterday on the shelf.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know it doesn't. It doesn't name the church though. It's a
Well,
survey
I
done by
think
Jack
I-
Shira, I think
Is
is
it?
the name.
You seen that book, big, big
yeah,
thick book?
yeah.
I think it was went by the name of Bethany Church. Of course, it's been dead several years.
There's a gentleman by the name of Mabry, isn't it? Mabry, that's buried there back in the back. He's got a big concrete vault-like thing back there in the
Like
back.
that church.
Uh-huh. And his little grandson is buried at the foot of him down there. And but he was born in the 17th century and died in 1861. But he owned over 2,000 acres right in there. He was a big landowner at one time.
Well, I
Does
don't
anybody
remember about that.
know the names and the ages of
Well, her funeral was there before we carried on over to where Grandpa was.
Van
buried
Buren
there.
children? John, Laura, Roxy, Betty, how they come? Does anybody know?
Their ages and all?
I've got
When are they
Roxy
born?
right here.
Roxy, maybe. Let's see.
Does anybody know the name of all the
John
children?
ain't Fanny was the oldest.
Yeah, we just wrote them down here a while ago when Henrietta was calling them out.
One of them, my
They was
grandpa.
John and Aunt Fanny are the
Grandpa was
oldest.
John.
Yeah.
They got
My
it right.
grandpa
And Betty's the youngest.
was born in 1853.
They beat it in. I think they beat it was
That's
next
when he was
one.
born. I can't tell you when he died. 'Cause
I
it's not on the
thought
stone.
Tom was the youngest.
Well, I've got
I mean, youngest
John,
girl.
Laura, Roxy,
Well, I just can't
Tom,
remember.
Betty, and Aunt Ella Yates.
Well, I don't think Uncle Tom.
Wasn't
was
there
young.
Aunt Ella Yates?
One of the younger girls, Mom. One grandma, one of the younger girl.
She was the youngest girl.
Girl.
Yates.
Okay, it would be
Grandpa Smith's sister.
calling first name.
Yeah.
That'd be Fanny,
What was her name?
Eleanor,
thought
that's
it
the
was Ella.
Yates.
Betty.
Something, Ella,
Betty was
Ella
older
was,
than
She
Betty
was the one
and
you get
Ella.
her attention over there.
What about Aunt Laura? Where she come
Aunt
in?
Ella was older than Laura.
Okay, Laura and Grandma.
Yeah, there's five of the girls.
was there eight,
Yeah.
was there Ella and
Yeah,
Mhm.
Ella
Ella
Yates. She married
Ella
Yates.
Yates.
Betty was next to the youngest, so she would have been next to
No,
my
she
grandpa.
was, let's go, let's
Aunt
see.
Betty was next to the oldest.
Okay, as, then coming down with the girls, it'd
Danny
be
and Uncle John
Fanny.
was twins.
Fanny was one of the
how many
twin John.
children were there? I
Okay,
don't know whether I got
Okay,
them all or
then,
not.
Betty, you say was,
was the next.
I think
Next.
Aunt Betty was next to Aunt Betty.
and, then, Aunt Laura,
And
or
Aunt
Ella.
Ella was older than
Aunt
Laura.
Eleanor,
Aunt Ella and
Ella, and then,
Aunt Laura and
Laura,
Mama.
Roxy.
Yeah, there's five.
How many
five.
children were there?
There's five girls.
Seven.
Seven.
7 children?
But they were 6 in this picture because
I've
Aunt
got
Betty wasn't there.
six here. What was one I missed?
I'll have
John?
to tell you a little story. Betty, she married a fellow by the name of Cook Barr.
Second time.
And the second time, and he was the father of John Barr. I don't know where you ever remember John Barr in Bowden or not. He used to How the bank there, and he was, you know,
He was a well-to-do person.
I remember him good. My grandfather ginned for us for many years.
and he was connected with a lot of different things. Sold mules.
He owned that Bowden
Yeah.
Junction Railroad.
Yeah,
Oh, he
all
did?
of that stuff. But Cook Barr was his father, who married Betty. And
Betty had
ain't
some
Be-
children by his first husband, didn't she?
yeah,
What was the first husband's name?
he was a high
High
tower.
tower.
But anyway, Aunt Betty died, and he married a few years later. I guess he was in his early 90s when he married the last time.
That's fine, when
And he came out, and this is the funny part. He came out in the Carrollton paper that he wanted to rent a house near church and school.
And how old is he? 90 years old?
Well, we went to see him.
I think somebody just had that to it, you know, because you're so old.
Well, you know, the Bars used to own that store there at Ty's.
Yeah,
That intersection there?
yeah, he started that, and his son wound up with it, and later his grandson owned it for a
Uh-huh.
while.
I remember
Can
my
I
daddy
have the
had
name of the other child in here? John, Laura, Roxy, Betty, Tom, and Ella.
You don't have them in order now.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't have
Here,
them.
here, I've got them in order, I think, as VR called them out.
Okay.
Well, the twins, John, M, and Fanny.
John, M, and Fanny.
Yeah.
Y'all know,
Then you said Betty is the next.
That's what Mama said.
That's what I think now. I
Okay,
could be
and
mistaken.
then after her is Ella.
Betty is next.
Yes. And then after her is Ella, you think?
well, y'all know Aunt Ella had
Mother,
a daughter.
let me finish with this, please. And then Laura,
Yeah, no, and then my mother.
Okay.
then Roxy, Roxy Anna, A-N-N-A.
That's right.
Okay.
And
Then Thomas,
You-
my grandfather.
He was the baby, wasn't he?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of them?
Yeah, there's 7 of them.
That's,
5 boys and 2 girls, 5 girls and 2 boys.
okay, that's it.
Well,
You
you know,
got that,
Aunt,
Uncle Jim?
Yep. I
Aunt
got it.
Ella had a daughter named Fanny, and she got killed, you know, not too long, about just a few years ago, not too many years ago. And she's got a son that lives down at Sonoma.
What's
Joe-
your marriage?
Joe
Teacher,
Gates
you got
was
that.
her husband's name, I remember.
This is Roxy's Bible, Henrietta's mother,
Oh, I'm there.
and that was what we were looking at there a while ago on television. And this is the marriage certificate of
Did you get a picture of that, Jack?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
of R.L. Williams and Roxy Anna Smith,
What year?
1887.
Do we need to talk about maybe let's moving on out, or
Yeah.
is anybody under any time
I just
constraints?
wondered what that-
I think we ought to get started.
What time is it? It's 12 o'clock?
We want to get to the cemetery before dark.
If we run by and get a bite to eat somewhere,
Let me,
Yeah.
and then get on the road, it'll be another hour or two before we get there. So we'll be talking about 3 o'clock
Oh, yeah.
almost off time.
Yeah, we need to
So we
kind of
need to
get
probably
going.
go on.
yeah, we need to try to,
Well, let's wrap it
Jillian,
up.
that's my grandson.
Give me your tea glass.
J.M.
Well, that's your uncle died, O.L.
I'm gonna cut this off
You
so
know,
it will
O.L.
cool.
Let's
Put
see.
over there. Tea
Oh,
glass.
yeah. Yes,
Will we all be coming back? Yeah.
Only married 5 months.
Come back.
Yes, you know.
Watch out.
oh, that's
did you know, did any of y'all
No,
know?
I'll probably won't come back here.
Lee. That's
No,
Lee.
y'all just go
Hey,
straight on.
Jack, come here. The family
Look at
come
this.
here.
Look what we found here.
Found where Lee died.
This is the obituary
us-
apparently of Lee.
Yeah, that's what that is. God, I like that.
Well, can you read it?
Yes, it's a copy of it. You could get a copy on that, I think. Let's see if we can get it back here.
What is it?
She
It's
lived,
obituary.
and that's the end of it, right there. That's Lee, right there. Look at that.
Well, let's put it over here and see if we can read it.
Let's see, it even tells the date he died here.
Yeah, born and died.
He's born, and he died in 1915. I was right about that. Well, that's the one that's missing on that group because he wasn't alive at that time. God almighty, I'm glad to run into that.
Now that's Lee. It was O something O.
Well, you go get a copy and see if you can take it anymore.
I don't know, but we can get a copy of it. Maybe we can get maybe VR to make us a copy of it. You want to put that on there?
See if it'll-
Talk about Ellie Yates. I know she had one daughter. I don't know whether she had any more or not. Vanny was her daughter, and she got killed in an automobile
Family
accident.
Bible. That's Trey.
And she married a
You
preacher.
found all
Yeah.
kinds
She
of
married a preacher.
Yeah, just
Vanny
coming
married a
through
preacher,
here,
and
found
her son, Dan Pritchett, lives down in Sonora. He was a ball coach for a long time, but I don't think he is now. And I called him and tried to talk to him about it. He didn't want. Said I don't know nothing about
Well, I
Smith.
thought he died so Vanny did.
So that would have been
It's her
Roxy's
son, you mean?
nephew. He was Roxy's nephew.
Dan Pritchett.
Lee.
Yeah.
Dan
He was
Pritchett
Roxy's
is Vanny's son.
My daddy.
No, husband.
Her husband did, but I'm talking about her
Oh,
son.
son.
Her son.
I don't know.
He
if they
lived down in
died.
Sonora.
John.
She got killed in college.
I called him and tried to get him to tell me something.
What would y'all
Yeah,
suggest for
there
them
was
like
Nine
this?
young kids.
Yeah, we got it.
Well, I don't expect
I
you
get a
to
picture
know.
of you and your brother sitting together.
I got that.
Okay.
Sorry.
You said it, but that's counting Lee. There's
You
nine
feel like
counting
going up to the cemetery with them?
Yeah.
Lee. That'd take all the glass and probably get a
Get your arm
reflection.
down so I
Yeah.
can get this picture here.
Yeah, and I've got him
All right. Look
Ben
at
Buren
that.
Smith.
to
We can
Let's
get
see.
Okay, good.
Then maybe
I
that'll be
would- we
with
need
us.
to-
We're the only.
Yeah, you wanna come on over here? That'll be a
Get your
generation.
chair.
That'd be the only three of that generation.
Jack, I'd like to do this. I'd like everybody to write down their name and
Yeah,
address.
You sit
Okay.
here, I'll stand up.
Because we're going to be copying some stuff and need to be mailing stuff to people.
No, you come on, sit here, I'll stand
I
up.
don't see anything else in here, Fred.
Come on, son. Quit arguing.
It's gonna be 30 minutes before we get that
Yeah, and that
together.
you read, I didn't even read it yet.
I can't,
I ain't gonna take
I
time
don't
to
even
read it,
see.
Well, it's, I think we're gonna be able to.
If there's a way you could make us a Xerox
No, I
copy of this
can't
one
see her
day,
back
maybe
there.
put this article up there.
You can see me here,
Do it
can't you?
now.
Yeah.
You know that's account of my Uncle Lee
Yeah, I'll
that
get it.
died.
Only
When he
three of
died
this
the other day, I
generation.
never had seen
Okay,
it.
we can look this way.
I'd like to.
Look
Any
this
place
way.
here in town we could get a copy now.
There we
Go
go.
to my wife's office and she's closing about now, but
Hang
she'll
on,
be there
one
15
more.
minutes.
Hang on
I
for
want
one.
to ride by there and get it now.
One more time.
You hear
Right
that,
here.
Ron?
Yeah. If we could
One
do it,
more
if not,
time.
just
Right
do
here.
it and mail it to us
Yeah,
too.
but I'm a lot further away from
Okay.
there. I'm way down there. I want to get it.
You want to get it right
Okay,
now?
we'll
I tell
take
you
one
what,
and
let's do,
hand
I
it
gotta
to
go
you.
swap my
Yeah, I
pickup
want
from my
one too,
van,
but I tell you,
so
y'all
I can
been-
go up there with you, because you
Hadn't
don't
been
want to drive way back
for
down
y'all.
here.
Well, I tell you, we
Just
really
leave it on
given
the
up.
table.
Did you
We
find
got
I'm
that
your
in
Bible
trying to
that your
film
family
this,
was
so-
all listed in, that you were looking for? Did you find the other Bible that you were looking for?
No,
It just had the kids, our individual families, kids in it, which is on that picture.
On that picture,
There's been
okay.
a repetition.
Okay.
there's some of it.
If you wanna write our names and addresses.
Yeah, I want to do that. Let me get a pad here and then you just pass it around and let everybody write it.
Excuse me, can I get by one?
Oh, excuse me, can you get by now?
Yeah,
You making it?
yeah.
Well, let's just do it in that notebook right there. That's a good place as any, that way I won't lose it.
And Jim said, I think Jim's getting hungry, ain't you, Jim?
I didn't even get a chance to look at it.
Just
He videoed
Just
it.
start.
I'll put my mother's name.
And that, I didn't know who this was till I got here today, except Grandma. I knew that was
a
Grandma.
picture I need to send to her. And
That's ain't,
Do we know what year this was, Ron?
this is ain't Roxy right here.
That when
well, it would have had to be
Yeah.
when he died.
It
which is
gives the
listed-
date he died and the date he was born.
See right there, died
Oh.
April 11th,
She
1950.
give me that.
Okay, right.
So that would have had to have been
See,
somewhere
my-
close
my
to that, Jack.
brother.
Yeah.
What
Well, I got
she
it, it's
she
filmed
got
all
that.
on here.
That's you and your daddy.
No,
Did y'all put that on tape right there?
yeah.
Yeah, I remember when
That's-
he died. I was
See, I'm not on there, 'cause that's when I-
Is this your picture of mine? I got one. Is this one you sent me or is this one you did?
That's the one I had, I think. I had one laying here.
That's it.
Well, they're gonna VR it.
Yeah, it's
They
mine.
can get a copy.
Go see. 'Cause
Better see it. See, I had some made, I didn't have an actor, but I had some made from the picture. That was pretty good to be made from.
That's
It sure is.
Ron,
It's a
what's
good
it gonna
one.
cost to get that
I got your address, but you put it in here.
I'd love to
I
get
got
a
it.
negative of this.
Just write it like that. We have a record of everybody who's here
That
today.
picture of
Put
you and
your
your
name.
I'm
grandmother.
gonna run down
I'd
and
love
get
to get a
this
negative
copy. How
of
many
that.
copies we need of these?
Because that's the best
I'd
picture
like
I
to have
think
one.
there is
Draft
so
one
far.
from Jack
And I want
Sullivan.
one, that's
Okay.
three.
That's
Yeah.
three.
See, I knew I had this
swap my
one.
pickup
It's
for
funny
the
thing,
van.
I had
Okay.
misplaced it. I knew I still had the big one, and I said, well, I've got a little one somewhere. And I kept looking, and I looked.
Well, on that picture of Van Buren, I would like to have a negative rather than a picture. Can you
I've
get
got
a
two.
negative made of a negative?
Let me show it to you. And I don't know what can be done with this. Just a minute.
He's got, my sister-in-law got him a negative, took it to a photographer and got him a negative made of that picture. And he's got it, he's gonna show it to me. He said instead of, if he wanted to, he'd just have them all made, everybody that wants one made.
I think I would rather have a negative, and then I can blow it up or reduce it or whatever.
And have as many made of the family, that
Let me see.
This is the one that Isabel had made, Uncle Jim.
Yeah, I looked at it.
I do too.
That's your
Now let's move
grandpa.
this down. Now,
Would you like
Put
it?
it
I promise
back
you a copy
down.
of that. You're gonna get a
put
copy
it
of
in
that.
glare,
Henrietta.
so
let's see, the further I take it down.
Well,
like that.
and Jim's, well, she has given me,
And Trask wants a copy of it, I know.
and listen, she has given me
That's
this
Sarah
picture.
Jane there.
She
Sarah
just let us
Jane.
borrow it.
No, she ain't, she's giving it to me.
Well, we need to
She
give her a
said she's
copy.
got, said some of her children have got one just like it.
Okay, we'll have a
good
copy,
looking
give her a
woman.
copy
Yeah,
of
she
it.
is.
Trask.
At that age, you usually start changing
You gonna,
features, and she doesn't.
Why don't you give me this right now?
All right?
Why don't you just read it off to me? Now,
Just
just
read it off to you?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
And telephone number too.
okay. It's Ronald Edmondson.
Okay, good. And Jim, why don't you do the same thing for me?
I gave you.
Okay, you want to read it off?
Yeah, I want you to read it. I want you to tell me what on the film here. Give me your home address and telephone number.
Just give me my name and address.
Right.
James V. Smith, 600 Jefferson
Whose is that?
Street, LaGrange, Georgia.
And Uncle Trask, why don't you give me yours?
Did I get the right zip code on that?
I did.
address,
Yeah.
no name, just address.
Give me a name and address.
Trask B. Smith, Post Office Box 504, Leeds, Alabama, 35094 is the zip.
Can your telephone
Phone
number?
number is 699-7310.
Okay, good.
You got mine.
No, we're gonna get it right now.
Whose picture that? I just got the
Okay.
picture.
Susan,
Yes,
Susan
John.
Edmondson,
And his wife, Ellen,
8 Cherokee Street,
and then this is his family.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's Uncle John.
Uncle John.
18th.
Henry, Georgia,
Yeah.
zip code 30263.
You don't-
It's 404 area code.
You don't need
Okay.
me.
Uncle John outlived better than
And your telephone number?
His youngest
Oh,
outlived better than me.
Did y'all find my place easy?
Yeah, sure did.
My mother died.
Right to it.
Let's get this show on the road.
He
man.
was the
Yeah,
latest.
let's
Okay, I'm gonna give him my
I
address.
need to get Henrietta's. We don't have, you didn't get Henrietta's address on there. did you?
We're gonna get it here in a minute. I'm gonna get me on there.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember how old he was.
Another thing, what kind of business you in? Travis said,
I have a recruiting business.
That's the one.
What kind?
No, let me have
what?
recruiting business, oil and gas.
Oh, really?
We have offices in Houston and New Orleans.
2185.
What does that got to do?
That's
What,
the-
Get me up there. Let me.
But do not leave
where
out,
were you raised?
Farmers High, Carrollton.
but when you get to the end, don't leave
Is
out
she from
the
Carroll-
sequence
Carroll
of you
County?
finding it on what day and what year, so many years after the day of his
I forget
death,
what it was now.
okay?
I'm sorry, Jim, what'd you
I
say?
said, was she from Carrollton too, or she find it out?
My wife, no, she's from Florida, Milton, Florida there.
Oh,
Y'all wanna come on now?
Well, let me tell the story on this, because it is kind of, I was shaken from it. I went to Smith and Sarah J's graves there in the woods. And what got me started on it was Uncle Trapp. Wanting to find, he had called me and we had talked, and he had told me that he and his father, Thomas B., had gone down there years and years ago, and the graves had fallen in, had kind of caved in. And Uncle Trapp wanted to find them, and maybe let's try to fix them and repair them and put them back together. So he couldn't remember where it was that the graves were. So I went to Georgia and went to the library there in Carrollton, and I went to the big cemetery book. You know, I went to the library, and they said, well, there's a cemetery book back there in the historical area. You have to check in and check out. So I went in there, and I got the big book, and I sat down at the table, and I opened this book. Now this is the truth, so help me God. I opened this book, and guess what I turned to? I turned to the page of this unknown cemetery, and on it was B.B. Smith and Sarah J. Smith, and a number of unknown graves, and it was surveyed by Jack Shower back in the 70s, I guess it was. No address, it just said off of Bethesda Church Road, or near Bethesda Church Road. I got a real funny feeling when that happened. So help me.
You didn't have to look for it, did you?
No, I turned to it. You know. So I got to asking around in the community where this might be, and I stopped at Mrs. Cox's house there at Farmers High. She used to be the president of the Historical Society there in Carrollton. I figured, well, she would be a good person to talk to. I got to talk to her. She says, I think I know where that grave might be. It's near the Bloodworth. It's in the Bloodworth Cemetery. So I found out where that was, which is right out of Tice. And I went trying to find it, and I couldn't find it, so I went back up to Tice, and I said, well, I'll ask somebody maybe that's lived here for a long, long time. So I pulled into this older-looking home, went up, knocked on the door, and introduced him who I was and what I was looking for. He says, I know exactly where it's at. I said, oh, I'm going to find my great-great-grandfather's grave. So he says, follow me, I'll take you down there. So we went to this grave site, old church site, called the Bloodworth Cemetery. And we walked through there and looked, but I didn't see anything. He said, well, guess maybe this is not it. I don't know where it might be. And I said, well, were there any graves anywhere? He said, well, there used to be some old Indian graves over there somewhere, which is across the road. And I said, well, I think I'll go looking for those. So I started walking down the highway. Highway 5 from Tice to Rootville, which is right past Bethesda Church Road. I started walking down. He said there used to be an old road cut through the woods there. And I'm looking through the woods, and I could see maybe where there might have been an old road at one time. My heart beating. It was just a beat. So I started out through the woods. I was just by myself. But there was something pulling me. Something was guiding me. I'm not kidding. Something. I'm going through the woods, through briars, you know, looking and heart beating faster and faster. You know. I knew I was on something. I went, I don't know, 100 yards into the woods there.
Just back in the woods?
Just going in the woods. Going in the woods. And about that time, I saw 2 headstones right in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, he's
Out in the middle of
towards
the
the
woods.
edge.
I said, this is it. And I walked up there and looked at it, and there it was. B.B. Smith is what's on the headstone. And Sarah J. Smith. And that's the way I found
Well,
those
how do you know that's
graves.
Jane? Because she was named Jane.
Hadn't been
And it was the funniest feeling. I can never explain it. Don't know what happened, but I'm telling you,
There's a
something
leading you to
was
the way.
was
They're
helping
leading you
me
away.
follow. Now I could have gone that direction, I could have gone that direction, but I went this direction, and that was the direction
You
of
know
the
what?
You have a guide.
If you give Louis Gazard like this, he'll have it write it up in one of his pieces.
Well, I think we ought to send him a copy of the
I'd
text.
just soon not have our family written
Y'all
up
come
one.
on, you'll be.
Bizarre, sorry.
Well,
let's-
what I think is also ironic about it, Jack went to the library 100 years to the day,
Yeah,
and opened that book
it was
And
almost
found
100
to the
years
day
to
of
the
his
day.
death. To the day of his
Well, that's
death.
Okay, VR, tell us where we are now. Tell us where we are.
This is the old Van Buren Smith home place here. Everything, the old house stood up in this area right here, and you see one big oak tree still standing. This is the driveway that went up to the right of the house and on out to the barn area. So
This is the old driveway right in here?
this is it right in here. And so it stood, I guess, 75 or 80 feet off the road here.
Is the road here then?
And the same road was here then.
And the house is gone, the barn is gone.
Everything.
What happened to the house? It burned down?
No, the wind blew the top off and began to deteriorate, and then it was torn down. It was basically the main body of the house was log, and it's a pity what we didn't preserve it, but if I had my time to go over, I would do that, but I didn't.
And you own this property now. How many acres you think is in here now?
40 acres.
But how much was it originally?
75.
75.
This on the east side was sold off back when my granddaddy and grandmother, that's Bob and Roxy Williams, they sold it off to one of their daughters, and then Timberland Company owns it now.
Uh-huh. Well, this is it. Let me get across the highway here. Where's the old tree you're talking about? Oh, I see it over there, I guess. Yeah, I see it over here now.
Yes, it's been here since I can remember, and I remember back to when I was... What tree is he talking about?
That old tree right there.
There's an old well just to the right of that tree county.
Be careful, they said there's a well up in there.
Where's it at? It's on off a few feet, but don't go too far.
I can't get to the tree no how.
I guess you remember the house well, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, my grandmother and granddaddy lived here. I used to, and we lived up the road, the next house up there. We spent a lot of time around.
Well, what was the little community we just went through right back there?
This is Ephesus community.
What is it?
Ephesus. E-P-H-E-S-U-S. An old biblical name.
Henrietta, you've been coming to this spot for many years, aren't you? Haven't you?
Lots of them.
I think she was born here, wasn't you, Mama?
Don't know, I can't look like you. Grandpa, you've got lots of timber, yo.
Well, I got a bush out of the car. These are two big bushes. It takes a... Well, this is it. This is the property. I tried to go back in there. It's so dense with undergrowth and briars and all. Woof. This is looking across from the property and then looking back down a dirt road. Probably pretty much the way it was 40, 50, 60 years ago. This is the property where the one photograph that's got maybe, I don't know, 50 people, 60 people on it. Everybody spread out. This is Henrietta is a little girl on there, and Susie's a little girl on there. And
Jim was a little boy on there.
Jim was a little boy, and Mother Cleo and Daddy B are standing off to the right of that photograph, and it's also the same photograph that has the... What'd you call those two things, VR, off of that wagon? Strands? Shafts. It's a picture. It has the shafts in it over on the left-hand side there. Well, this is that property.
It was right up in this area.
And,
Everybody went in the buggy, I imagine.
a lot of activity went on here years and years ago. A lot of memories here.
Now to get here, we came 100 or 27,
100.
and then we turned on what road?
This is Hopewell Road. It's known as Bar Farm Road now.
Bar Farm Road.
What is the name of this road?
Bar Farm. This is the road I was trying to give them the name.
Oh, yeah.
Van Buren Smith Road.
But they wouldn't do it.
Mainly because I thought it was some history behind it, because he helped institute this church right down the road here.
Well, we're kind of up on a hill.
Well, Primitive Baptist Church from here.
About a mile.
Now, how far did we turn off of Highway 100?
This is about a mile and a quarter to a mile and a half.
Yeah, we're kind of up on a hill.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of see
It's
down a hill here.
I don't, not any in our family. I don't.
You got all the Burens, haven't you?
Yeah.
This remember Biston here.
And this is
You
B-A-R-R
remember Biston here.
Bar, yeah.
Farm Road.
You turn on.
I don't see possibly it could
See,
go
they
up
have
from
a
there.
city
Do you
limit
remember-
down to that.
But do you
Is,
remember that big old oak tree?
They got it
back there?
streets of all things. Out here in the country, streets.
When we
That's
turned off,
Rogers Street,
It's still
and
right
then
there.
you come.
Be careful walking up there.
Was there a shed
Then
over
when you
that
run
way
out
it showed
city
a
limits,
little
it's
shed
Bar
back there?
Farm Road.
we turned off 100 on Hopewell Street.
Yeah, yeah.
Then we come out on the paved road up here.
Let me show you how that thing is laid out. You got a scrap piece.
Throw it right there in the bottom.
Okay. See, here's 100. This is Highway 100. And it goes
Years
on.
old.
And you turn, this is Hopewell.
He's not even working.
Jack, if you get a trail through there, I'll be up there in a
Well.
minute holler.
And then, if you remember, there's a
Yeah.
dumpster right here.
Yeah, we come
and,
into the road on an angle there.
And then this comes this way. Okay, now this is Rogers.
Where does that Rogers girl that I talked to live?
This is her husband I'm talking about.
Oh,
They live in the big house right across from the school building there.
And Roxy was your mother.
Rogers
No, Roxy was your mother.
Street.
you know what?
And it comes
Lived here with the
down.
mother
You know
Now
what?
down
You
this
know
is
what
city
it says
limit
up
sign.
there?
So,
Pavement runs out there.
and then this is Bar Farm.
Well, Roxy wasn't Grandpa's twin, though, was she?
That was Fanny.
Yeah. But you remember living here.
And it goes on through
You
to
remember
hits
living here
the
with
other
your
blacktop
grandmother and
road
your mother.
about 3 miles away over
You know, not Nana, right?
Nana.
Nana?
Yeah. That's
I live
how we
there
get here.
Can you focus on it? You need me to hold it closer?
I think I got it. Well, if you can see it or not, but this is an old wall that was in here. Old rock wall that runs down through here. There's the rock. You can actually see it. The old tree that still stands out here in the big oak, it looks like. No telling how old this thing is. If you look in some of those photographs, you can still see it. I had to crawl into the woods here, through briars and everything, to even get this shot. But you can see how tall it is, and I'm almost shooting straight up now. That's the tree, the mighty oak. Maybe we ought to name that the Van Buren oak. Sounds like an apt name. Also, we can see a well here if you'll try to get over here so you can see it. Have to be careful not to fall in the damn thing. But you'll see a board right there. I'm aiming right at it. That's the well. Now I'll try to zero in on it. You'll see an old post or something laying over the